easy.
The American Family Association.
On this fundamental issue, I will not yield, and Planned Parenthood will not yield.
All the odds against us. Faithfulness is the word.
My religion compels me, and I love it for it, to be against discrimination of any kind in our country.
Our rights come from nature and God, not from government.
All God asks of you is faithfulness, faithfulness, faithfulness.
Fighting for the family, standing for the church, laboring to return to a moral and biblically based culture.
This is the American Family Association at AFA Today.
And though it may be a little bit of a chilly one, we welcome you to New York. There's this live shot of the Statue of Liberty in Liberty Harbor, right outside of Lower Manhattan, where we come to you from in the belly of the news beast each day, shadow of the Freedom Tower, just north of the most historic cemetery in North America, the one at Trinity Church. Kevin McCullough, AFA Today on AFR Talk. Always glad to have you with us. My phone number is 888-589-8840. It is we're closing out. We're getting close to the end of Holy Week for 2014, and we've got a lot of news to get to in this hour. I want to talk about a couple of stories. One, there's a brand new set of numbers you need to know about that has to do with how many people are actually earning versus how many people are actually taking. And you're not, well, maybe you are going to believe it. I was a little shocked at how disparate those numbers were. When you see the difference in the number of people that are producing versus the ones that are taking, and I'll lay it out for you. And then we have, I just think we have a moment of truth that we're going to have to talk about, given some new emails that are being publicized today. And thank goodness that Judicial Watch is still around. I thought they had gone away. They're actually doing some good work on the Lois Lerner issue. We'll tell you about that coming up. And do you remember that phrase, smidgen of corruption? No, Bill. No, Bill. Let me be clear. No, Bill. No, not a smidgen. No, not even, I wouldn't say massive corruption. I would say not even a smidgen. Remember that from the Super Bowl? We'll talk about that coming up. But first, I want to get to our Newsmaker hotline today because the Concerned Women for America have put out a statement about something that has happened in North Dakota. And I'm really saddened by this, and I don't know that if you are a decent human being that you won't be if you hear about it. Joining me to discuss this is one Alison Howard, who's the communications director for CWA, and she joins us live from the nation's capital. Alison, good to see you. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Kevin.
The story is that a U.S. district judge has ruled that North Dakota's abortion law, or I should say abortion ban law, he undid it. Why is he claiming the necessity of doing this? What is it about the law that he said caused this action on his part?
Sure. Well, Concerned Women for America of North Dakota has been working extremely hard in the state to allow the values of North Dakota citizens to be reflected in public policy. Just last year, they signed into this one that would protect babies after a heartbeat was detected. Some are calling it the most restrictive of the nation, and others would look at it as the most protected for the unborn child here. And a federal judge stepped in and ruled this law unconstitutional and invalid. That was his quote. So now we have a grand discussion going on about life and liberty and extreme overreach of government here. And I just spoke with our Concerned Women for America State Director, Yana Murdahl in North Dakota. And though disheartened by the ruling, it was very interesting to hear her say how encouraged she was that this conversation was allowed to happen now about what a heartbeat means. And if that detection in the womb for North Dakota citizens was enough to say there's a life there and we want to protect it, it passed by a bipartisan majority in both houses in North Dakota. In fact, she told me it passed in the House on the floor without a debate. So it's very clear what the citizens of North Dakota want. It's unfortunate that Roe v. Wade and federal justices want to step in and make it hard for state citizens to stand up for life.
Well, I want to follow up on the details of this, because what we're talking about is a heartbeat bill. And if I understood it correctly, it defined human life by the detection of a heartbeat. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so what is So how does a judge then come back to this and with whatever degree of excuse say that's not a human being? If I understood Roe v. Wade, it said we know that there's something alive there. The question is it a person? We know that it's even human in its DNA of sorts, even though DNA wasn't discovered in 1973. But they said we're not really fully sure if it's human. Well, if it has a heart and the heart is beating, and you can detect the heartbeat, how is that not a human being's heartbeat that that is a person? This is where I think that the overwhelming evidence of science and truth eventually has to trump this nonsense that continues to be put up as the excuse for why we've got to keep abortion legal.
Well, you're absolutely right. And if you look at the ruling of Roe v. Wade, like you said, the delineation happened of whether you could define life at a certain moment and if that would define a person at that moment. And so what you're seeing happening here is people like those in North Dakota, those in Arkansas who are pursuing a similar law, looking to take their ability to speak up for life to the courts and to legislate into public policy what we know science has proven. And I think that conscience is catching up to science now, and public policy should reflect that. And obviously, by the strong majority of people that voted for, or that are voting for these pro-life pieces of legislation, they would agree. You know, more pro-life legislation is passed in the last 2 years than in the last decade of where we're heading.
And I want to get back to something that you pointed out in your opening statement, and it's a very important piece of information, and that is that the North Dakota state legislature approved this basically without argument, basically bipartisan. You had people of both parties. This doesn't have to be a nasty political issue. This can simply be an understanding of what is proper, what is good, what is decent, what is wholesome for the good and the outcome of society.
Right. Well, it should be a microcosm discussion, right, in North Dakota about what's happening on a grand scale. I had the honor to go to North Dakota last summer and visit the last standing abortion clinic in North Dakota. It's in Fargo. It's called the Red River Women's Clinic. They're actually the ones who filed the lawsuit against this heartbeat bill. And what I thought was so interesting is myself and Penny Nance, the president and CEO of Concerned Women for America, Yana Myrtle, we stood out there. We were praying in front of this abortion. It is not 1,500 feet from Minnesota. If they would just move to Minnesota, they could continue their business. But it is an ideological war happening in North Dakota because they know that if they cease to file lawsuits against what the people of North Dakota have voted in and passed, then we win. Yeah. And so ultimately, I was so shocked for our state director to say, hey, look, if they just move down the street, they'd be fine. But they won't because it's an ideological battle here. And my generation of millennials is more pro-life than my parents. And I think you're going to keep seeing that happen as science and technology allows us to see what's happening in the womb. And you start hearing these stories, 40 years after Roe v. Wade, here we are talking about the consequences of abortion. We've got men and women across the country with real stories to tell. And I think the more that we share that and talk about science and stories, the more history only helps us to protect women and children in a new way and allowing policy to protect us instead of hurt us.
I think you're right. We're speaking with Alison Howard, who is the Communications Director for Concerned Women for America, based out of Washington, D.C., where she joins us today. Kevin McCullough is my name. My phone number is 888-589-8840. Perhaps you have reactions to some of what she's reporting about this story from North Dakota. Let me pull the camera back just a little bit further, Alison, and ask you this question, because this continues to be a demagogued issue where people say wrongfully and deceptively, if you oppose access to abortion on any level, then you're anti-woman. In the Texas case, for example, with the state law that has now put out of business, I think it's upwards of a few dozen abortion clinics. There's still a handful that are open, but basically medical flunkies that can't get real doctor's credentials and can't operate on people in hospitals, they're no longer allowed to cut on women that are carrying children, and I think that's a good thing. But the truth is, in that debate, and perhaps in some of the North Dakota fight, you saw women take the lead, step into the voice of the pro-life side in a way that I think is going to be necessary for this issue to be settled long term. But surprisingly, the media still demagogues it as an anti-woman issue. How do you begin to address that matter of whether or not women are the ones that have the say over the future of the pro-life movement?
Sure. It's funny that people kind of act like women are this mysterious, unknowable beings. But when it comes down to it...
Well, wait. I'm married to one and I've dated a few. I can tell you that you largely are mysterious and unknowable. But besides that, please proceed.
Well, but by blocking us into a voting group of saying that we're so hard to figure out, I think the difference is, though, like you said so well, in North Dakota and in Texas, I'm here to protect life. The fact that we're dealing in a political climate where speaking out against abortion and speaking up for supporting women in crisis pregnancies, speaking up for crisis pregnancy centers that need funding, for these sorts of things, the fact that anyone would deem that anti-woman is a problem. Because being pro-life is being pro-woman. We talk about the women not only that are going in for these procedures, but also half of them in the womb are women. And so more and more that we can be winsome in that conversation. I know that we've talked about it before offline, but just we have a role to be winsome here and have a redemptive tone to everything that we do. And I think the more you see women legislators stand up for life and like-minded men come to the line, and like Representative Franks tried to do in Arizona so well, and say, hey, I am here to be a protector of life. And I'm not afraid of saying that. I think you'll feel it will create a more of a climate of comfort for people to say it's okay to be pro-life. It is not anti-woman in any way. But again, the left will say that this is a war on women. They've already said it when it comes to the North Dakota case, that it's going to restrict women's right, their constitutional right to abortion. And so if we can push back on that with a redemptive, winsome, positive message that we really do want to help women here and save the lives of children, then I think that we have a chance to pull back a little bit of their facade, their smokescreen that they pander to women with over and over again.
That's Alison Howard, Communications Director for Concerned Women for America. And Alison, we're talking about the North Dakota story today in which a U.S. District Judge ruled that North Dakota's abortion law, because it was based on a heartbeat of detection, is unconstitutional. I haven't really understood why he said it was unconstitutional, but I'm sure this is going to be fought. What's next for the voters and for the citizens of North Dakota? How do you respond to this ruling today?
We fully anticipate North Dakota Attorney General to step in here and do what he can. We kind of saw this coming just because it was the first of its kind. But as it is the first of its kind, we think this will set a large precedent if the Attorney General does step in and speak up for life and speak up for North Dakota citizens. You know, like I said, talking to them today has been really revealing that they're now pushing for these state laws that can stop this overreach of government into the lives and the desires of the citizens of that state. They have North Dakota values, as they've said, and they want their public policy to reflect that. I think that's a great thing. So just continue for other pro-lifers in other states to not be discouraged, to continue to press on and realize that this is why we as conservatives are against the heavy hand of government throwing down pieces like Roe v. Wade that limit states' rights and the citizens of those states to make public policy that reflects their values. I think that's a really important part of this, too.
All right, Alison, thank you so much for your efforts in this and other causes. We'd love to have you come on back on a regular basis, but thanks for joining us from Washington, D.C. today.
Thanks, Kevin. Anytime.
All right, friends, here's what I want you to do. First of all, I want you, if you're not currently subscribed to Concerned Women for America, I want you to get online at CWFA.org and sign up for their newsletter and their e-blast. It's a great way to stay afloat of what they're doing, how they're working, and also to get connected to state chapters. It's one more group of people that you should know about, that you should be working with if you're not already. Along those same lines, I want you to stay with us for the duration of the broadcast today, because we've got a couple of other stories talking about government overreach, talking about difficulty in understanding the boundaries in which government restrains itself, if it can, versus what it's willing to do to strip freedoms and to barge its way in. And we're gonna kind of peel those back. Plus, take your calls, 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. Many thanks to Alison for being with us. I'm Kevin McCullough. This is AFA Today on AFR Talk.